I've been tying a golden retriever for a little over 25 years now, and maybe about 10 years ago I started to experiment with a little heavier model. I call it the Magnum. I wanted something to get down in early spring waters, in the high waters of early spring. And it's not really that much longer than a standard retriever. Here's a standard retriever tied on a size 10 hook. This is tied on a size 6. So it's not that much longer at all, but it sure is heavier. This fly weighs 50% more, or half again as much as a standard retriever. And it really gets down. I fish these flies much more than I fish the standard nowadays, and because they catch more fish. It's simple as that. Here's how I tie them. We start by inserting the point of the hook into the small hole in the bead. Pop it around the bend. Insert it in the vise. The wire I use is lead-free, 35 thousandths lead-free wire. I put 12 wraps, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10, 11, 12. Pull it straight back, push it up into the bead, into that countersink as you twist it, and then with my thumbnail I pinch off the wire. The thread that I use is 210 denier flat wax nylon, and boy is it strong. I want a very strong thread because I put an awful lot of pressure on this to build a very strong fly. I start by wrapping a dam in the back, taper it all the way back to a point just above the bend above the hook, the barb of the hook. Break it off, come back, make a nice ramp, a nice smoothly transitioning wrap. And then I take relatively light wraps, maybe 6, maybe 7 of them, up to the bead. And then I come back very, very tight and sink that thread into between the wraps. If it doesn't sink in, that's fine, as long as it's tight. It's very tight, so you're going to have a tight body that will not spin. That body will not twist on the fly. I'll grab a marabou feather, and I don't like that one. Here's a pretty good one. What I want a very meaty tail, so what I do, I get rid of a lot of the stringy stuff. I cut the tip of it off, the tip of the stem off, and then I get rid of most of that scraggly stuff. Not all of it. I want enough left on so that it's tapered, has a tapered look when it's wet, when it's in the water. It fishes a lot better. Then I take 1, 2, 3 tight wraps. Index your scissors right on the edge of that bead, straight up and down. Clip it off. That should leave you, or that will leave you enough, just the right amount. And when I come back, I twist, wrap that very, very tightly. I'm pulling harder right now. If this were a 3/0 thread, it would break. It wouldn't hold up to it. Come back to your reference point right above the barb. And then I take 1, go around, 2, go around turns. That further secures it, but more than that, it keeps the tail from, sometimes when you're casting, a tail might want to spin or twist around. That stops it from doing, well, I don't know, it doesn't always stop it, but it sure helps it from twisting around the turn. Okay. The S-TAS is, the fibers are directional, slanting in one direction, so I just give them a little more help and make sure they're all going back in that same direction. tie it on. I take about 10 wraps, 3, 4. Back to that point, that reference point above the barb, it took 8 or 9. So a total of maybe 10 wraps really tight to tighten that down. What happens, the salmon or the trout's teeth will hook into that S-TAS and rip and pull it out. So you want that to be really secure on there. That's critical, so you want to pay attention to that. Up to the bead, come forward in 5 equally spaced or relatively equally spaced wraps. I pull the fibers back as I twist the chenille, the S-TAS, and I put it on. I put it on very tightly, and I stroke the fibers back just as you would with a wet fly or a salmon fly if you're stroking, folding the hackles. And come all the way up to the end. And at this point, this is critical too. I take my index finger against the bead. I grab the S-TAS here, and with my index finger, I push against the bead. I use that bead as a fulcrum. And pulling very hard on the S-TAS and the thread, I lock that in place. Come around 1, 2, 3 in front of it. To cut off that tag, I want to leave a long tag end so I can secure it. I index against the bottom of that bead with my scissors, then I turn the scissors and I tilt them some to give me a long. Can you see? Yes, you can see that. See how long that tag end is. Do that on purpose because I want that really secure. Here again, the trout's teeth will grab it onto those turns and rip the whole fly apart. Here, make sure you capture that. You capture that tag end and come forward with it. And you want to be careful with this step, and you want to make sure you capture that with at least 5 wraps. Sometimes in order to cover it up, or mostly cover it up, it takes me maybe 10 wraps. There, that looks good. Okay. And another thing I do, I pinch down, I squeeze down with my thumbnail as I pull up tight on the thread just before I cut it off. There. We'll add cement. And there you have it. Everything looks good. If you're a fan of the golden retriever, you really owe it to yourself to tie up a couple of these and try them out. Give them a try anyway, because they really catch fish. I also tie them in a white, and a white color is death on schoolie stripers and other saltwater species, weak fish, false albacore, as well as rainbow seem to really like the white color, and they're a favorite with steelhead fishermen. You can purchase the materials to tie these flies on my website, or the flies themselves. I tie every fly sold on my website. I tie myself. Thanks for watching.